I have been trading the crypto markets for more than 6 years, and if there's one thing that I can guarantee you, the most important times in the market where you can position yourself to make the most money are when people do not know that it's actually one of those times, all right? The best time for you to position yourself to blow your account up in the right direction is when nobody knows that it's the right time. And I'm not saying that this is one of those situations, but it certainly feels like it. Let me break this down for you in this YouTube video. Before we get into that though, let's cover the short-term price action, because what we've had here was absolutely beautiful. It's actually really interesting. Absolutely everybody and their grandmother was talking about a bearish September and a bullish October. The amount of times I heard of October and bearish September and stuff like that is fucking ridiculous. I was also talking about this right here on Twitter, which is linked down below for you guys to check out. And the thing is, guys, what we're having is just extreme whiplash and rubber banding of opinions. We had this massive, beautiful candle here at the very beginning of October, followed by a big, steep drop. And actually, this drop is really interesting because it erased most of the swing upwards, right? We're up by 5%, up by $1,400, and then we're back down by $1,400, down by 5% as well. So really interesting price action. Why am I not worried about this? Well, the first main reason, and you are going to know this hopefully quite naturally now if you've been watching this channel for a while, shout out to all the subscribers of this YouTube channel, is that Bitcoin has shot up above its local areas of resistance. We can actually see this a little bit clearer if we take a look at a slightly different chart right here. Bam, take a look at this. This is our breakout line that we were watching, so we'll get to this line a little bit as well in just a second. There's a lot that I want to talk about right here, but it's also the key resistance area that Bitcoin was stuck trading at for quite a bit of time that we are finding support at right now. So, it's just like last time, guys, when Bitcoin saw a little bit of a rally up, and of course, because everyone's fucking stupid, people were really worried when Bitcoin came back down here. You had me stepping in saying, hang on, let's breathe for a second, relax. I literally said these exact words and reminded you guys that this was actually a phenomenal area of support for Bitcoin, and so actually, as somebody who just keeps things simple, as somebody who is apparently better at making money than most others in this market, I'm actually just gonna, kind of step backwards, breathe for a second, calm the fuck down, and appreciate that support levels are typically where bounces happen. I will still, because I'm sensible and realistic, I will not know that this is a guaranteed surefire fact of the market, but what I will know with a much higher degree of certainty is that most people are always wrong, and most people doubt support levels way too much. They doubt support levels like they did back here. They doubt support levels like they did back here. And people are doubting support levels right here as well. The fact is that we had a really bullish first day, and because every trader is so fucking retarded, everyone's now losing their minds over this little bit of price action, but we are only at support. Now, what is the possibility of a collapse here? I mean, look, it's still not great. Let's clear this up. I mean, just like at every single one of these instances, the reason that people are, so crazy with jumping between emotional extremes and with their perceptions of the market is because there is data to suggest that the market might keep dropping, and as far as support, I mean, look, when you're finding support, you want to get quick bounces. This is something that I've spoken to you guys about before. When you drop down to a support level, the faster you rise up, the more likely you are to actually, stick to the upward direction. I'll give you another example, right? When we fell down to really anywhere, we could use this little bit of price action. When we were, trading up here, okay, this was completely fine. But then we fell down here and we didn't really get a bounce. We just kind of did nothing. We just kind of traded flat for a little bit. That is a great recipe for dropping down, right? But when you're actually getting, these steep drops that immediately recover back up, like what we did right here, this is where you can tell with a much higher degree of certainty, actually, yeah, we probably are going to keep rallying up. So, we're not really doing that right now, and this is the thing that's important. And it's the same thing I was warning you guys about. If we look at some of our key indicators that offer resistance to Bitcoin, one of the key points I was telling you guys about is that the longer Bitcoin drags this on, the worse it's going to get, because the resistance is only getting bigger. You know, like if Bitcoin tackles this resistance area today or tomorrow, it's probably fine. But anything after basically Friday, which is in 2 days from now at the time of me recording, you know, Bitcoin is going to start facing serious challenges that will keep increasing over the next few days. And, you know, that is not something that I would take lightly. The daily Ichimoku cloud is huge. It is extremely important for the markets. You know, you don't have to look further back than the previous 2 clouds that we've had here. Look at the support. We bounced right off at the bottom, and then the next time right off the bottom of the Ichimoku cloud. If we look at what was going on back here, we are consistently struggling to get in the cloud, and a lot of the time we can't even do that in the first place, and we're getting rejected sometimes before we even get to the bottom of the cloud. I mean, this is a phenomenally accurate indicator, and one of the best ways to use this indicator is by gauging, well, the thicker the cloud is, the heavier the resistance is, or the heavier the support is, you know, and that's really important. So if we're starting to see this widen, we can tell from a large time frame that Bitcoin has a window of opportunity to go up right now, but that window of opportunity is closing every day. We must make this move quickly. So, you know, I will lose confidence in my bullish stance on Bitcoin if it's not able to pump up quickly. It's already taken too long, and I'm not super happy about that. The good news is that even despite Bitcoin being a little bit on the slower side here, look at the phenomenal support that we have. This 4-hour EMA ribbon showing us a great display of momentum. We've got a beautiful spread, meaning that this indicator is very useful. The indicator is not useful when we don't have a spread, but when we do have a spread, I mean, look at these beautiful bounces when the price drops into this EMA ribbon. I mean, you don't even need to, you know, trade long term for this kind of thing. This is a 2% move. Just slap 10x leverage on this kind of thing, and I mean, you just clean up making money like this. It's one of the trading strategies that I've used for years in this market, and it's so damn simple. You just have to go up here to the indicators tab, and I believe you can even just type in 𝗤𝗙 MA exponential ribbon, and there you go. You can actually access the same one that I'm using pretty much, which is absolutely fantastic. Obviously, I'm making all of these trades on Bybit, which is linked in the description down below. They're giving you up to $30,000 in completely free trading cash, which is fucking amazing. That is free money that you can deploy back into the market, and any profits that you generate with that capital are yours to keep, which is super, super cool. And by the way, they're actually running an airdrop right now where you can get a free $100 position on Bybit if you've never traded on it before. There are a few conditions right here which you can read. This is also going to be linked in the description down below. So it's a huge offer. This is still the best exchange in the space. They're giving you, you know, 0% spot fees as well, which is super, super cool. And of course, BingX, another great option for you guys to consider, because they're also giving you access to traditional finance markets, which is very, very interesting. So definitely check them both out. You're getting huge bonuses on both. Bybit will literally give you a free $100 trade as well when you sign up using my link, which is super, super cool. But if we do bring it back to the video, I mean, you know, the EMA ribbon just, you know, I mean, look, the bottom line is this YouTube channel, even though we talk about the analysis and where I think the price will go, this YouTube channel is primarily geared towards making money as a trader. If it wasn't, I don't know why you would be here. I certainly wouldn't be here. So, you know, that's why I really like these kind of indicators that, you know, you can tell are just very reliable, and it certainly is providing a good amount of support to Bitcoin at this stage right now, which I think is absolutely phenomenal. Now, if we move on and take a closer look at this support that we've got before we start to zoom out and talk about some really crazy shit, we're going to be covering the S&P 500, some really interesting stuff going on here, and the dollar. This is kind of where it starts to become crazy, and a very long-term chart on Bitcoin. I'm not even going to tease it. It's that crazy. You guys just got to stick with me here. We need to go through this step by step. Otherwise, the analysis just will kind of lose meaning, you know. But if we do come back to this chart here and really take a look at what's going on, again, I want to bring this right to the forefront of your attention. This area was clear resistance for Bitcoin for a long time, and it has clearly formed as support now. And you know, it's just different things at different price levels at different scales. I mean, you know, we had very, very, very similarly a lot of resistance at the 25k level going back to 2022 and even early 2023, and then of course we got above this area of resistance and it turned into support, you know. So we saw the same thing on large time frames. It's why I wasn't worried when the price came down here or down here. You guys have been watching me the whole time. You're going to know that we've been rock solid this entire trend since we were down at 17k. I was telling you guys that I'm expecting 30 and even potentially 40. My words have not changed. My sentiment has not changed from the bottom, and I've made the profits to show for it as well. I'm not just saying this to you guys when I'm sitting behind my microphone. I'm actually making a lot of money off this stuff. And again, that's why I'm telling you guys the main focus of this YouTube channel is to actually be trading for me. And like I said, these trades are all primarily being made on Bybit, so check that out with the link in the description if you're interested. Okay, if we move back to the charts here and talk a little bit more about what's actually going on, this is a bit of a concerning situation. We were talking about this setup that Bitcoin had where we could have been looking at, a really nice breakout from this diagonal resistance line, and we basically broke out at the same price level, with the same kind of setup. But this time the breakout is a lot slower. The first time that this happened, it was basically the next day it turned into a bit of a rocket ship. This time we are going a little bit slower, and the implication of this might be that I don't know why I did that. The implication of this might be that we're gonna do kind of fake out like this. I'm not actually too worried about this. I'll show you why in a moment. This really isn't concerning when you put this in the perspective of the broader picture, and this is something that was one of the main ideas we're going to discuss later on in the video. There are some potential reasons for this dump other than, I think, just Bitcoin retracing. One of the key things that we need if we're going to continue to rise up, and one of the reasons we've been able to take another leg up, is because we've been having these pullbacks. I mean, this was a pullback that lasted, 5 days, 5.5 days. But it also, for Bitcoin to sweep the high that it set took 2 weeks, and that's not a super short amount of time. Comparatively, the last time that we saw something a little bit like this would have been, close to 2.5 weeks ago. So, we were moving at a pretty good pace. I mean, if it takes another, kind of week or so to get above this high, something a little bit like this, that would actually be really healthy for the market. And even a week looks a little bit quick, like the way I've drawn it for you. So, let's just retain perspective of the market. One of the key things that I'm actually telling people recently in this market, or really with anything in life, is that real life generally is a lot more boring than you think it is. It is a lot less dramatic, and the markets are definitely like that too. The markets are generally a lot more boring and a lot more dissatisfying than you imagine them to be. And so, when we kind of talk about these ideas, it really helps you kind of retain perspective and stay realistic with the market, which, doing that is only, it's not easy to do naturally, but if you can do it, that's still only your entry ticket. Like you're not even at the start line if you're just able to be realistic. So, we really need to retain perspective of like just what you're up against. You're up against traders like myself who do this shit naturally because we've been doing it for 6 years. Let's be real. These kind of things are not easy to navigate on your own. That's why, back when I was starting out as a trader, I used YouTube channels just like mine, just to teach myself what to do. I used VIP groups just like mine, so I could learn how to trade. If you guys want to do that, of course, I've got my own here, which you can check out as well. But if we bring it back to the chart here and talk about, these kind of price moves, this is quite interesting. Now, like I said, one of the other reasons that Bitcoin could have dropped down is probably the S&P 500. If we take a look at the S&P 500 and really, kind of pay attention to what's going on here with this chart. I mean, the S&P 500 has been in trouble. I mean, pardon me, just 2 days ago, was one of the most ugly kind of daily closes that the S&P 500 has had in a while. I mean, this daily close, we haven't seen price levels like this since way back at the very beginning of June of this year. So, that is going back like 4 months now. It's been quite a minute since the S&P 500 has been down here, and it is just kind of in free fall, which is in stark contrast to Bitcoin. We know that the S&P 500 and Bitcoin, because you've been watching this channel for a while, showing it all that support. Thank you all so much for hitting the like button and all that stuff. We know that the SPX and Bitcoin have been correlated quite well for, the lion's share of the last few years, really. But we are seeing some, occasional kind of decoupling, some occasional kind of inverse correlation action. And one of the things we're seeing right now is that even though, typically the S&P 500 performs well, if the S&P 500 is performing well, that's what enables Bitcoin to perform well, even though that's typically the relationship that we see. Right now what we're actually seeing is that the S&P 500 kind of isn't even near any areas of support, has dropped down below its key area. I mean, Bitcoin's equivalent area of this would have been 25K pretty much. And so the S&P 500 is just really in a weaker position compared to Bitcoin right now. Even just, in terms of percentage moves. I mean, recently we've seen like, minus 2% on the S&P 500 and minus 0.5% on Bitcoin. You know, it's been like that. So, you know, like really kind of unusual stuff here. And one of the key reasons that we're probably actually seeing this happen, if we take a look at the dollar, is a very bullish SR flip. So let me actually take a look at this with you. This is actually one of the key charts that we were talking about for quite some time. Let me see if I can find this for you real quick, just live on video from my video notes from a previous day, because it's actually really interesting how we were talking about exactly the same thing, you know, potentially playing out for a while. I mean, you know, we have seen this coming. You know, and again, I mean, if you've been watching, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. We have really seen this coming from quite a long time ago. I was showing you this chart where, you know, the dollar, and this was before the dollar even broke out. I showed you the same damn chart. You know, we can go further back. I'm sure I'll be able to find you another example of the same thing. You know, it's almost like the writing was kind of on the wall here, you know, about what was going to happen. And we just really saw it coming from far, far in advance. Here's an even earlier chart, you know, of the dollar. So, you know, this is quite typical, you know, price action, or I'd say like dollar movements that we're kind of seeing right now, where you know, we were basically expecting this breakout for the dollar and then that subsequent back test to start a big rally for the dollar here, you know, and that is kind of what we're seeing. I mean, if we bring it to this real life dollar chart right here, you know, I mean, sure, it happened a lot faster, but it's the same damn idea. It's really nothing different at all. We came back down for a beautiful wick down at this old area of resistance, flipping into a new area of support, and this was actually one of the biggest candles that we've seen on the dollar since potentially all the way back in March of this year. So, you know, only comparable to this day of action for the dollar way back here. I mean, this is a big move for the dollar, and I'm not exactly sure if that's correct. You'd have to measure each individual candle, but this one is definitely big, you know, as far as the dollar's movements go. And, you know, it's no surprise that that's coming off the back of a support level. So, you know, I think that is one of the things that really spells the weakness for the S&P 500. You know, and it's one of the things that puts us in a really interesting position as Bitcoin traders, because, you know, the dollar being strong is generally a really bad thing for Bitcoin, but it doesn't seem to matter. Alternatively, the dollar being weak is generally a really good thing for Bitcoin. And, you know, if the dollar has risen up this much without a pullback, it's only had like a 3-day brief pullback over here, and it only went down by 1.5% basically. You know, it hasn't had anything significant yet. You know, well, then what might happen, given that Bitcoin has shown so much strength when it shouldn't have? You know, what might happen if the dollar actually starts getting a little bit weaker? It might have to rally a fair bit higher, you know, for that to happen. But, you know, I mean, it's an interesting question to kind of think about. You know, it's a really interesting discussion to kind of have with yourself or you know, internally with friends, whatever. You know, because this kind of thing should be bad for Bitcoin, but Bitcoin doesn't seem to care. So what happens if things get good for Bitcoin? You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those questions that I'm asking. It doesn't necessarily mean we're going to the moon and stuff like that. I'm not saying that at all, but it's an interesting discussion, and I don't think that, you know, it's something worth brushing off, you know, particularly easily. So, you know, really interesting position that Bitcoin is starting to find itself in now against the dollar here. And this is where it's actually even more interesting. So if we take a look at this very long-term falling channel, descending channel that Bitcoin has been in since 2021, we have had very consistent support along the bottom of this line right here, and fairly consistent resistance now as well. This area has spanned for 980 days now, which is absolutely massive as far as chart patterns go. It's to be honest, it's too big, but we're still respecting it really well. And what's interesting is we can actually draw a line to kind of measure the whole span of this range to extrapolate a target. We can actually put that at the potential breakout point, assuming we break out now. That gives us a very speculative, crazy, ridiculous, unrealistic price target of $75,000. And that's not what I want to focus your attention on. But the point is that if we get a breakout from this kind of thing, it could be very big. Is it actually going to be this big? Like I said, probably not. But, you know, if it goes up by 5K or 10K, that is still a lot. You know, I mean, that, you know, it doesn't have to go up by $46,000. Just 10K more would be insane for Bitcoin at this stage, especially if, like me, you've been taking advantage of the volatility with exchanges like Bybit. You're going to be sitting in some really nice profits if that kind of thing does actually end up playing out. And what's really interesting is this next chart. If we actually really dive down into how often Bitcoin has been challenging this area of resistance, one thing is very clear. Bitcoin is not letting up on its attack of this resistance level. Bitcoin is not taking no for an answer. Now, does that mean it's going to stay that way? No. This is actually an inherently bearish pattern. We're forming a descending triangle with lower highs, keeping the same constant low. Typically, these patterns, 66% of the time, are going to break down. So, this is not the glorious setup that you might think it looks like at the very beginning, but it's certainly not a position of weakness. And this is something that's well worth paying attention to. There is a lot that's holding Bitcoin back below this $30,000 level right now. But as soon as, and more importantly, if those floodgates are released, you better strap yourself the fuck in, bro, because this thing is going to go crazy. I don't see any other outcome for Bitcoin other than an explosive rally, because just look at how long we've had this area holding pressure on the market. As 30k, it was immensely strong as support. As 30k as resistance, it was immensely strong as resistance. This is a critical level for the market, and a breakout. I just don't see it going any other way. It's probably going to be absolutely face-meltingly ridiculous, and so that is something which I think is really important and well worth keeping in mind at this stage in the market right now. If things go, a little bit more bullish, if Bitcoin kind of continues the pattern over here that I was talking about with its speculative target of 32k, which is much more realistic, that's going to be the third consecutive attempt of the 30k level on this 1 day time frame. This is not a short-term time frame. We're looking at 67 days apart and then 91 days apart, more or less. This is very nicely spread out. A minimum of 2 or 3 months between each attempt at resistance is strong. As a bear, you would really start to be, you start to get a little bit worried. As a bear, and it's the same thing I was telling you guys earlier, right? Like when you get support bounces, these kind of support bounces don't give you confidence. These are the support bounces that give you confidence. These are the support bounces that give you confidence. You see, these ones, the price moves up immediately. You can feel confident in it. These ones, you're really looking at a chance of dropping down. And it's one of the reasons I think that the dollar couldn't muster a strong rally and that it eventually even collapsed below the prior low. It's one of the reasons for that is the bulls can see this and the bears can see this. Everyone sees the same chart. You can tell that there was no strong reaction from the bulls, and that kind of alludes to a little bit of weakness. It's only when you get these strong V-shaped corrections that you really know that you're in business. But if you look at what's going on with Bitcoin, especially on this chart that I was showing you just now, there is no strong rejection that we're getting off this level anymore. The first time, sure, if you're a bear, this is going to give you a lot of confidence. It's clear, it's undeniable, there is heavy resistance here, and the bears are not fucking around, the bulls are not strong enough to push it, so you can feel confident that the price might keep slipping lower. Can you still feel confident over here? It's an important question to ask, and I think it's even more important just because everybody still seems so bearish. If we take a quick peek at the 4Fly's dashboard, we can actually see the fear and greed index here. I'm curious to see what this is updated to. We're sitting at 49. I think we're in a really good position right now, and to see that we're still at 49 is a good sign to me. It shows me that we're not too high right now. If we kind of zoom out a little bit and take a look at this perhaps on the 3-month scale right here, we've spent a lot of time in fearful territory over the last few weeks, and we have been slowly creeping up. Don't get me wrong here. We have definitely started to become a little bit a little bit optimistic in the market over these recent kind of weeks, but at the same time, we're not too high up. At the same time, this just little dip that Bitcoin is having, where it's only kind of falling down into an area of support that we already knew existed, one of Bitcoin's best possible case scenarios. It came down to 21.2 for fuck's sakes. This was such a good entry level for a long position, and it's something that I would have even done if I wasn't already in such a profitable long position on Bitcoin myself. It's really come down to a level that as a trader you would really want to see it drop down to for a little bit of support. Now again, like I said at the beginning of the video, this could easily collapse and roll over, and there's a good number of factors that suggest that Bitcoin should roll over and collapse from here. everything else to me is just showing me that this is a more bullish chart than people are making it out to be. You know, so if I'm detaching myself from what everybody thinks, and I'm just doing my own analysis, and it's telling me that we're strong, and then I log on Twitter and fucking everybody's scared, you know, well, that tells me that, again, I might be on the right side of things. It's really useful, actually, to kind of compare yourself to other people in the market and just kind of evaluate, you know, like, are you seeing what they're seeing? And if the answer is typically no, then that's a good sign to me. That, you know, I don't want to be in agreement with most people, because most people lose money. It's really just that simple. You know, and it kind of sucks, right? Like, you'd think that it's a little bit more complex. You'd think that if you read the right fucking books or whatever, you know, that you get some really interesting piece of alpha, some really interesting advantage, where you've got this crazy fucking TA theory that you've read in a book that, you know, some obscure fucking Chinese guy gave to you, you know, so it feels a little bit exotic, that maybe you would have an edge in the market. But no, you just, you know, the best way I've found, truly, is to keep things really simple, you know, and buy support levels and sell resistance levels, you know, and that is it, you know, and that's the strategy that I found that works very well, you know, and that's the strategy that I'm going to stick to, because it's making me so much money. You know, again, here's a look at some of the trades that I've taken in these, you know, kind of in this market right here. Here's another look at my Tron trade, which actually nearly hit 200% profit a couple of days ago here. Absolutely fantastic. I mean, you know, like, I'm not just saying this stuff to you for fun. I'm actually making substantial amounts of money off these positions in the market, you know, because I am practicing what I am preaching. So really, really cool stuff there. Like I said, if you want to take advantage of everything, then check it out with the link in the description down below for Bybit to get up to $30,000 in bonuses. If you're interested in an alternative, BingX is a phenomenal option because of their access to, because of giving you access to traditional finance markets as well. I have been eyeing like I said, the monitors back there. These two monitors are both Tesla and Apple respectively, and they are, you know, one of the key things that I want to take positions on in the market, just because I love those two companies, you know, and I think that they're really, really cool. So, you know, and the price action isn't that bad. I haven't been able to find an entry yet, but when I do, I'm going to be trading it on BingX, because it's just fucking cool that I can trade these markets with a Bitcoin deposit. It actually doesn't look that bad. Tesla bounced off support. Probably want to look for a little bit of resistance now. Honestly, being around over here, to be honest, is probably an area of resistance for Tesla. Not to say that I would short it. Kind of almost looks like it's in a bull flag of sorts to me. So do I want to step in front of this? Not necessarily. But yeah, really, really interesting stuff nonetheless. I mean, you know, if Tesla takes its time, you know, to get up to this area of resistance, this is actually going to be a really interesting potential sell point, because it does line up with a big support back test at, you know, some pretty, you know, reliably obvious resistance as well at the $270 level. So that could definitely get interesting. So there's a lot to see right here. And, you know, again, like I said, to be able to trade it with a Bitcoin deposit is super, super cool. So check that stuff out. And again, take advantage of this offer. If you meet these conditions, if you've had a Bybit account for a while, or you still haven't signed up for whatever reason, and you just want a free $100 to trade with, they are going to give that to you. And really all you need to do is deposit $100 into your account. That is it. You know, you don't even need to use your own money. You can use their money. You can withdraw your money afterwards. So super, super cool. You know, still the best exchange in the space. I've known this for years, even since before I've been working with them. So there you go, guys. I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you have, you know exactly what to do. Hit up the likes, subscribe, tick the bell, do all that beautiful stuff, and I'll see you all in the next one. Cheers.